So here's the thing, someone has just bought all 9 of these Rolex watches. One person, one individual, and spent well over £100,000. Yeah, so you know, this kind of deal doesn't happen every day, so I thought it'd be good to share with you guys a few of the details around what happened with this deal. So yeah, stick around, please like, subscribe, let's get into it. Here we are, here are the 9 watches that this person has purchased from Watch Life recently. And I have to start from the beginning with this one. So back in 2021, September, I sold my first ever watch. It was a black Daytona, it was a 116500 LN, and when I sold that watch, it was honestly amazing. I had this moment of euphoria to know that, you know, I've just sold a watch. I've just made money doing something that I absolutely love. I'd quit my job at the time. I was in finance for 4 or 5 years, and the fact that I could sell a single watch and make some money on it, it wasn't a crazy money, but the fact that I could make money on a watch doing something I loved was the best feeling in the world. You know, fast forward to 2024, it's been roughly 2.5 years since that moment, and I've just sold 9 watches to a single individual. Now, if somebody had told me that back in 2021 or even as a young boy, I wouldn't have believed it, because, you know, I've been buying and selling watches now, whether you consider me as a dealer or not, back when I was like 19 years old, back in like 2013. Yeah, I've been buying watches for over 10 years now, and it's only recently, like I said, that I took the plunge to actually make this my business and make it my life, and I'm very glad that I have. And you get to a point where you can sell 9 watches to somebody, you know, after years of hard work, building trust, building a brand. But anyway, it's a moment of gratitude that I just had to share. So I have to say thank you to everybody that watches these videos, and also for anybody that sold me a watch and who has bought a watch from me in the past. And maybe if you're gonna look to do that in the future, thank you so much. So I wanna go through each of these watches now. There's a common theme with all of these watches, a very common theme, and then also the second thing I will say is interesting, that there's 2 models here, that's it. So the first thing is, these are all Rolex, they are all sports models, and they are all stainless steel, which is interesting, and they are all either a GMT Master 2 or a Submariner. So let's just go through now. So we have 1 sub, 2 sub, okay, we've got 2 subs, and we have, therefore, 7 GMTs. And you might be wondering, why would one person want to buy 9 sports Rolexes? Well, it's a very good time to buy watches. Relatively speaking, prices are at a very low point, so it's very, very good to buy watches at the moment. Prices, as most of you guys will know, a couple of years ago were absolutely through the roof, and yeah, very expensive. So to buy these watches, he might have been paying almost double, right? So very good time to buy. Let's go through these watches. I want to start with this 2024 Jubilee Pepsi GMT. This is a very hard watch to come by. It's a very, very difficult watch to get from an AD, and it's also not that easy to buy on the grey market, pre-owned as well, just because there aren't many of these floating about. And if anybody does get offered a Pepsi, a lot of people tend to keep them because they are pretty rare in 2024. So that's the first watch. To go with that, I want to go straight over to this Pepsi, which is on Oyster. Now, this is, the only difference is the year and also the bracelet that it's on. A lot of people, when we talk about sports Rolexes, a lot of people do prefer an Oyster bracelet. Now, I do think the Jubilee bracelet looks great on GMT, but a lot of people like it on Oyster. They think it looks more sporty, and that's understandable. The Jubilee, you could argue, looks more like a watch that you'd wear maybe with a suit or a smart casual outfit. But nevertheless, if I put these 2 together, they do look great, and it's just amazing to have both. It really is. And then also something that I have 2 of is also the GMT Sprite. So I'll start with the 2024 Sprite on Oyster. Again, same sort of thing occurs here, where people just prefer the GMT on Oyster, although the Jubilee is often worth more, which is interesting, which would suggest that the Jubilee is more popular, but there we go. It's personal preference. I don't know, there's probably a 50-50 split with what you prefer, but again, these two watches looking absolutely fantastic next to each other. So yeah, one of these, the Oyster is 2024 and the Jubilee is 2023. So I'll pop those back there. Moving on now to a couple of Submariners. So as you guys may or may not know, Submariners either have a date on the dial with the Cyclops here to the right at the 3 o'clock, or they have no Cyclops and they have no date window. And that's called a non-date or a Submariner no date. So here, looking at these two together, really interesting to see, and I just want to point out the fact that it does make quite a big difference not having the Cyclops dropped onto the glass, onto the dial. So very interesting, and you know what I get from the customers that I speak to, a lot of people say maybe a 75% split. A lot of people do prefer the non-date Submariner from an aesthetic and a symmetrical point of view. But if you're wanting a tiny bit more of a complicated watch, obviously the sub-date will give you the date as well as the time. So personal preference again, but this individual wants both, and you know, if you have the means to, why not? So there we have both of those, and they are, so the sub date is a 2021 and the sub no date is a 2023. So both of these are the 41mm, the newer reference that was released in 2020 and onwards. And then moving on to a couple of watches that are exactly the same, and when I say exactly the same, I mean both on Oyster bracelet. Both of them are the Batman, so the black and the blue split bezel, and also they're both 2022s, so twins you could say, and having them next to each other looks pretty cool. It's pretty cool to have both of the same watch, and again with the GMTs, I think it's really hard to determine whether it's better on Jubilee or not, but the Batgirl, the one with Jubilee, does look pretty good in my opinion. But these two are both 2022, and again you might be wondering, well, if these are exactly the same, if these are twins, why would somebody want two? Well, I sold them at a really good price, and I don't think he could turn down the opportunity to have two of them at the price that I sold them at. And then finally, which I've said on this channel in previous videos, if you want to go check some out, this is the watch that I've sold the most amount of times, and this is the 126711 CHNR. It's the bimetal, the two-tone GMT root bit, so rose and steel, and this is actually the only one of the GMTs that doesn't come on a Jubilee bracelet. So this one you can only get on the Oyster, and it'd be quite interesting actually to see this watch on a Jubilee bracelet. Maybe Rolex will do that in the future. You can, however, get this as a full rose gold, which again is a beautiful watch, but this one here is, I think I said at one point that these are all steel. I'll correct myself. One of them is a two-tone and has rose gold. And this is a 2024 as well, so one of the first ones of the year to be released in the UK. And I guess what else is kind of crazy for me to think is the fact that this is like maybe half of the stock that I have, although this does wipe out 50% of what I have for sale, and therefore I will be looking to buy new watches. So if you guys are thinking about selling a watch and would like to get an offer from myself and my business, then please do get in touch through however means you would like, whatever you prefer. I'm happy to chat. I'm super happy for the person that's bought these watches. I think they'll be amazing to have in a collection. I'll be back very, very soon, and yeah, hope you're all doing well. Bye bye.